Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. Today we are doing this one was a lot of research, but it was which party has each specific state voted for more in what percentage of the time. One quick little note before we get started. I decided whenever I was doing my research that I wanted the most accurate representation. So I did it starting in 1864, since in 1864 was the first election of those parties being the two biggest ones and not having that much competition. There were some exceptions, obviously, like Ross Perot, not even Ross Perot, like George Wallace, who won a few states. But mostly there hasn't been like a big third party that was consistently the whole time. So let's get this started. First, I'm going to change this to just safe and toss up. We'll get to safe leaning toss up later because the ones that could flip the next election, I'm going to put in the leaning column. So to start us off, we have Washington, D.C., which is 100% Democratic. It has never voted Republican since it was allowed to vote. Alaska is 93% Republican. It's only voted Democratic once. Hawaii, not far behind, with 87%. It hasn't voted, I think it's voted Republican twice ever, which isn't very much at all. Now we're going to hit the red wall. Kansas has voted Republican 85% of the time. The most ironic part of this whole video, as goes North Dakota, goes South Dakota, 84% Republican. I don't know how they have always managed to vote for the same person. I'm not really sure how, but I'm not going to question it. Nebraska is 82%. I don't know the specifics about the second district. This is for Nebraska at large. Same thing with Maine. I don't know the specifics of the different districts. Next we have, now it's a safe Democratic state, but 79% of the time Vermont has voted Republican, which is pretty interesting considering it's like not a Republican stronghold, Democratic stronghold now. Indiana, also with 79% Republican. Wyoming, 75% Republican. Some people say this is the most conservative state in the Union. It's not. Maybe it is now, but looking through history, it's not. It's Alaska. Utah, 74% of the time, it is voted for a Republican. Maine at large has voted Republican 74% of the time as well. Iowa has voted Republican 72% of the time. Finally, we're going to break the red wall with Georgia at 71% of the time voting for a Democrat. At 70%, we have Arkansas for the Democrats. Arizona has voted Republican also 70% of the time. Ohio has voted Republican 69% of the time. Michigan, surprisingly, has voted Republican 67% of the time. Maryland has voted Democratic 67% of the time. That's not too surprising. Idaho and Montana have voted Republican 66% of the time. That's not too surprising either. Pennsylvania, my home state, has voted Republican 64% of the time, which is pretty surprising, considering how it's a toss-up state mostly. So basically, the newer states, with the exception of Hawaii, and the northern states are more Republican than not, as we will continue to see here. Um, Oklahoma is also 64% Republican. North Carolina, 63% of the time voting for a Democrat. And 62% seems to be a lot of Democrats. Alabama, 62% Democratic. Kentucky, 62% Democratic. Louisiana, 62% Democratic. And Texas, 62% Democratic. Also at 62%, but for the Republicans, is Oregon. Colorado, 61% Republican. Illinois, 59% Republican. Let's see here. Virginia is 59% Democratic. Tennessee, also 59% Democratic. Wisconsin, 59% Republican. Florida is 58% Democratic. Mississippi is 57% Democratic. Missouri is 56% Democratic. California, 56% Republican. South Carolina, 55% Democratic. Now it gets closer. New Jersey is 54% Democratic. Delaware, also 54% Democratic. New York, 54% Democratic as well. However, Connecticut is 54% Republican. Also, the last one before we activate the leaning column is Washington at 53% Democratic, which is surprising for a northern state. Now let's go into the leaning column for the 51 percenters. 51% Democratic would be Rhode Island. That means that voting for Hillary Clinton shifted it into only 51%, meaning before it was tied 50-50. Also, Massachusetts was tied 50-50, but it is now much more. It is now on the Democratic side. New Hampshire is, I must have missed it. It was 67% Republican, which isn't too surprising because it's more of a toss-up state. Let's see here. West Virginia, 51% Democratic. Oh, yeah. So voting for Trump put it into the leaning column, and since Trump's very approved there, I could see that one probably going 50-50. This also puts the Democrat ahead, but the Democrat should have been ahead for longer because New Mexico is 56% Democratic. Sorry, I made a list of them, and I must have skipped New Hampshire and New Mexico. So sorry about that. Nevada, 51% Republican. This is another state. West Virginia and Nevada will probably go to 50-50 at the end of the next election cycle. That's just my prediction. I think it's more likely that Nevada goes red than West Virginia goes blue. But, yeah. And finally, we have Minnesota, which is a tie. So, since 1864, there have been 39 presidential elections. It voted for the Progressive Party once, the Democratic Party 19 times, and the Republican Party 19 times. So, if it goes Republican or Democratic, this is down to the Democrats winning Minnesota every year since 1972. That's why it is much more democratic than all of the states surrounding it. So that's about it. Comment down below if you enjoyed this video. Tell me what states you think are most likely to flip, and I will see you all soon.